Hi, Mike Brookfield's here. I'm back with a new album. It's called Brookfield and it's out on the 22nd of September. So I'm going to go through each track on this album and give you a little bit of background. I suppose the main difference between this album and the last album, Love Breaks the Fall, where I wrote all the music and the lyrics. This album I wrote all the music, but I wrote the music to the words written by Eamon Carr, a friend of mine who's a boxing journalist and a music journalist, but probably most well known for playing drums in the legendary Celtic rock band Horslips. So, a message for Willie Johnson. When I first met Eamon, one of the first things we did is we talked about old bluesmen and new bluesmen. Guys like Blind Willie Johnson and then new guys like Doyle Bramhall too. And we had very similar tastes in the old bluesmen that we liked, and particularly Blind Willie Johnson. If you're not familiar with his work, it's worth checking him out. So yeah, the song kind of tells his story, and I wanted the music to sound quite modern and a little bit funky, and there's a few kind of Clapton elements in there, and I wanted a big jam out at the end. So and you can hear when you can hear on the track I do use the chant, keep your lamp trimmed and a burning. Which is obviously one of his famous tunes if you know Blind Willie Johnson's music. Beaten to Death by the Blues. Well, I suppose we all know casualties of rock and roll, and I suppose that's what the song is about. I could have written a really sad song to the lyrics of this song, but I chose to go a little bit upbeat and kind of celebrate the musician, but also the message of the tune is like it's not always musicians who are beaten to death by the blues. Some are musicians, some are not. We all have demons to fight and a weight to carry at times. Zombie Craze is a fun tune. It's very Hendrixy because it's got big riffs and a wah-wah riff, and it takes lots of twists and turns in its arrangement. And I wanted it to be like that. It's almost like a chase, like a zombie chase. But the message of the song is really, you know, we're being ruled by zombies, and we are zombies walking around with our little mobile phones and everything. So like the zombie craze, it kind of applies to a lot of things in modern life. And it's really just kind of like throwing it out there in a Pulp Fiction-y kind of fun way. So it's an upbeat track, and I think hopefully if you're listening to the back end of the track, it's kind of something you can listen to and say, yeah, that would be great to have that at a festival, jumping up and down and having fun. So. Suitcase Blues. I think when I first got the lyrics off Eamon's Suitcase Blues, I was reading through them and trying to imagine a story, and I kind of came up with a story in my head where it was like a drifter in that kind of like, you know, I don't know, the early 20th century or something, you know, going through the south of, the deep south of America, and as I was reading it through, I was thinking, what's in his suitcase, you know? And I came to the conclusion, you can actually come up with your own conclusion of what's in the suitcase, but I think, and this is quite deep now, but I think what's in the suitcase is regret, because in the story he sees an incident with a woman, and he doesn't do anything to stop a tragedy happening, so he has to carry this suitcase around with him for the rest of his life, which is like a regret. So it's kind of like an old blues song, this one. It has kind of deep roots in the blues. And again, I like the arrangement of this one. It's got a few tempo changes and it shifts around with lots of riffs, so it's a good fun. Don't Close the Gates is a nice track to play. As I was writing this, I thought, wow, it'd be amazing to have a gospel choir on this track, but the budget didn't didn't stretch to that, so it's just guitar, bass and drums, but I think the sentiment still comes across, which is really, the song is about, you know, it's about asking for help, I think, you know, don't close the gates, you know, give me another chance. And it's amazing what you can do when you're faced with challenges and the mountains that you can move, mind over matter, and things like that. So you could take it from a kind of a religious point of view with the don't close the gates, or you could just see it as the point of view of lyrically just asking for help. So, you know, it comes under the category of the old blues styles, and it reminds me a lot of you know, Nobody Knows You When You're Down and Out. It's that kind of style song that I was going for. I was very much influenced by Derek and the Dominoes when I was writing a few of these tracks on the album. You can hear that on this track, you know. Living in a Better World. This is probably the intro on this is, you know, really kind of steps away from the blues. It's quite contemporary. It's got kind of ambient parts and kind of like, it sounds like there's a synth, but there's only guitar, bass and drums on this whole album, and vocals obviously. So I really tried to manipulate the guitar to create some new textures, and then when the song actually kicks in, you know, it's got that kind of, it reminds me a little bit of, I don't know, Bad Penny. It's got a strong riff, you know, Bad Penny by Rory Gallagher, you know. So and again, it's quite a political song. I think it's pretty self-explanatory when you listen to the song, where you know, they say we're living in a better world, but are we? Through all the technology and everything, have we got better as people? You know, I don't know. So again, it's quite an upbeat kind of vibe to it, this song. So there's with some of the serious lyrics, I tried to flip things on the head. So sometimes I would take a serious lyric and write a kind of upbeat song around it, and that kind of like neutralizes things a little bit. A Letter from the Devil is an interesting song, because when I got this, I think it was originally called Deathbed Waiting, and it reminded me of Death Letter Blues by Son House. So I kind of started researching that song, and in that song he says something about a letter from the devil, you know. So I kind of took that line out and kind of put it in, and that changed the whole vibe of the song, and it sounds a bit kind of archangel-y or something. Do you remember the Archangels with Charlie Sexton and Dora Bramhall in the 90s, you know, with Double Trouble? So there's a bit of that kind of vibe going on, and that's one of my favourite tunes to play live, because there's good strong riffs, and you can see the audience really love the groove on this one. High Class Shoes is really about, you know, ladies. And it's, again, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. You got to watch out for the ladies in the high class shoes, you know. I'm going to say no more. Listen to the song on that one. Gun Crime's a good, again, it kind of runs in tandem with Zombie Craze. There's a bit of Pulp Fiction. It's quite cheeky, you know, it's a serious subject, gun crime, but we've kind of made it into a kind of cartoony, you know, almost Tarantino-y kind of vibe about it. Again, the song takes lots of twists and turns and key changes and little riffs and stuff. So what I wanted to do with this album was make sure that there's lots of layers for people to listen to. It's not like a straightforward album where you kind of know where the song's going from the off, you know. I think with a song like this, you know, it starts and you just wouldn't expect it to go in the directions that it does. So there's a, you know, it's a real, I've been listening to a good few of these tracks on the album. There's, you know, there's a few adventures to be had along the way. I remember Eamon telling me a story about this song as well, when he was on his way to a Horslips gig in the 70s, and he got held up by a guy with a gun, you know, and he was on his way to a gig, and this other guy was strung out, obviously trying to get some money for, you know, his habit, whatever that was, you know, and these two worlds kind of collide, and you know, I think that was the original inspiration for Gun Crime, which is maybe like 40 years ago, and now it's only coming to life. So it's a good fun track, that one. This Restless Heart was written as, I was listening to a lot of Jimmy Vaughan as well, and I like the way Jimmy Vaughan writes songs, and they're not, you know, kind of traditional blues. He'll kind of twist the chords around, so it always sounds really interesting. And Stevie Ray Vaughan did that. On the surface it seems very straightforward, but when you actually dig beneath the music, you find that there's little kind of cheeky little things kind of going on. And that's what kind of inspired this track, you know. It kind of feels a little bit traditional, but there's a kind of an unsettled kind of restlessness about it, and it's called This Restless Heart. It never really quite resolves that you want it to. So I kind of structured the song in this kind of, with this sense of restlessness, and then there's a very Eric Clapton vibe about it, and there's two vocals. And in my imaginary world, I was singing this as a duet with Eric Clapton. So Eric, if you're out there, if you ever want to do a duet of this track, you know, give me a shout. Let's go there. Let's do it. Written in Chains is one of my favourites on the album. It's a great expressive vehicle for some guitar playing. I like, you know, it's the last track on the album, and it really takes the album out with a big guitar feature. And then the song is, you know, quite politically written from Eamon's point of view, where I know part of his family were involved in 1916 and the War of Independence in Ireland and stuff like that. So it's very much written from a political kind of point of view, but like talking about, you know, what's etched in the walls of jails when people kind of go in and they etch things in the wall, and then they'll move on, and then somebody will come in, and it's like a tapestry of people's lives, you know. So it's quite a serious thing, but I think it's a song of hope as well. I think it's really trying to put the message across about looking after each other. And then the big solo at the end is a nice way to close the album, so I really enjoy playing that one. Well, thanks a lot for checking out the album, and it's released on the 22nd of September. We're doing a big launch in Dublin on the 26th of September in WHELANS, so give me a shout, and yeah, I hope you enjoyed this album. I really enjoyed making it, and we're going to be out on the road promoting it, and so I hope to see you at a show soon. Keep it burning.